I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into one of the main themes that, for me, arises out of your work and the conversations that we've had about it, which is the notion of the random and what that actually gives to you as an artist to relinquish control over aspects of your work. So, thinking about your work in particular, tell me a little bit about points at which you've introduced random elements and what potential is that doing in those various points?
Well, I've used materials, so chemicals, silver that change, copper, outdoors, pyrite that bleeds, weathers. So one of the elements certainly is the materials. And another significant element is time, what that does to the work. And then for composition, that's another point where chance comes to play. That about wraps it up.
What about specific?
Some of those works. Now I can go in more detail, but those are the broad things. It's kind of composition and the materials interacting over time that make things that you don't expect. And what chance does for me is it gets away from work that's overly contrived or really contrived, too self-conscious.
I suppose with chance as well, because I've seen you working now, and I think that there is, what I've realised with your work is that there is still very much you have a chance, more often than not have a chance process, but also built into that is an editing process that's still... Right. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so the combination of the two.
Yeah.
One of the things that John Cage would subscribe to was Kumaraswamy's idea that nature, imitating nature in her manner of operation. You've heard this phrase, and Cage has used it a lot. And we all know, I mean, you can't, as an artist, you can't beat nature. In terms of, let's say we're talking about tide pools in Maine, where you'd go to one, and then there would be sea anemones, and then another would have barnacles, and another hole look with seaweed, and so on. And these grow up over so much time, and they're different ecosystems that are all extraordinary. So to try to arrive at something in that way fast, right? We're not talking about fast meaning while I'm making it, not fast once it's made. So in terms of the composition, when I first did the works, like this work behind me, then I did an overall. I poured and I painted the whole surface. Then after that dried, I poured again and did other events on there, flicked other liquids, even silver cleaner or urine or whatever, different things I would try on it. And I did that for a number of years. Then, and maybe I talked about this before, about a bear. Did I talk about that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, this is funny. It's a funny story. It's a real bear story. But there was a bear in the country, and I had a peach tree. I grew these peach tree on a septic mound. Something you're not supposed to do, but it was a dwarf tree, and it seems it's okay.
Yeah.
And so it was laden with peaches, and suddenly, one morning, someone had spotted that a bear had ripped off a branch of this tree, and I had tended it very carefully against deer and so on. So it was a lot of work, and I had to drag double ropes. I mean, it was a big thing to grow this tree against all the attackers. And so 1/5 of it just went down with this branch. So I was very sad about it, obviously, and I had a silver painting on the floor in the studio where I work on the floor. And I had always been painting the entire surface. And so I thought, there was no mark on it yet. It had just been ready, and once it's ready, I have to wait a couple of days for it to really set the varnish and be sure it's hard. And so then I took the branch and threw it on there and collected other branches and threw it on, and it became part of a series that I've continued since, I think, 2000, for the last 4 years. Maybe going on 5 now. And so, and what I'm collecting, it could be river roots, it could be firewood, sticks I've picked for firewood, and so on.
That's interesting, because I was thinking how when you made the painting behind you, because we were doing it in winter,
Right.
and there was the snow had frozen over,
Right.
and the only sticks that were available were the sticks that dogs had.
Yeah, they were dog sticks.
Yeah,
Right.
brought to the park. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
it's interesting that you still kept this
Animal intervention.
Yeah, this animal
yeah,
intervention,
right.
which again
Which is
another,
nature.
Yeah,
It's another nature. Yeah, yeah. Because we went walking along the Hudson.
yeah,
At Riverside Park, and there were, it was icy, glassy. That you couldn't. It would take a while to dig down a foot into and find sticks, but there were enough sticks all over.
yeah.
Yeah, for that use.
Was it the because of the bear, the random, I suppose, intervention of nature with the bear coming in with the tree,
Assaulting my tree.
Yeah.
So I turned it into something, because I was really devastated, and it turned it into something so positive. It just, use it.
So you had prepared a canvas.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah.
That I had one.
And what were you planning to do before
With that one? Probably a whole
interview?
surface with chemicals once again.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Just continue with what I had been doing.
So the chemicals that, with what you were doing before, because now, like with the image behind you, they are applied to where the sticks land on the canvas. Were you, when you were creating those marks on the canvas before the sticks came along, what were you
Oh, what was I thinking?
following?
Like, where
What
was I
determining?
following? The uneven surface underneath. There were a whole variety of things. Time of year. In New York, I did it on a roof, and I did it in the winter. I was having a show again in winter, or spring. It was spring, and there was snow all around the edge of this roof. That's where it was shaded by buildings or the parapet, and so the snow hadn't melted. And I thought, it'll be okay because the snow's on the edge, and I'll be fine. And so I put the painting in the middle, and just a sheet of canvas. Linen, really, I used linen. So this sheet of linen, and left it there with the chemical poured on overnight. And what happened was the snow melted the next day and ran rivulets underneath and made the best pattern. So how could you repeat that? That just, So those kind of chances. The snow for this one. I've been working with the stones for a long time with rain, rain and snow. But so moisture on the pyrite, which breaks down and bleeds iron pyrite, and so that had made me think of liquid, water and weather, and then there's snow. That for the paintings, what surprised me when I did it, this painting, was that the marks, which are kind of etched on silver, are very slight. There's not much, it's not raised, and so that surprisingly, the snow at just a little rakish angle, 10 degrees or something, just a little rake, the snow piled up 8 inches. I think I've talked about that before. But I didn't expect that it would hold above where the marks are. So it was above here. So we have footage of that. Hopefully that'll make its way into your film.
Yes, yeah,
And
you give me that, yeah.
I gave it to you. You got it.
Yeah.
Great. So you could see. And then that particular snow was just the right mixture. Who could organize that? But it was a little bit moist, like good snow for snowball fights, packing snow, you know? And so it wasn't really dry and powdery. It could hold. And then I shook a little of it off when I came in, not on purpose per se, just carrying it in. We had to turn it sideways. We had, to get it under the door. Yeah. It was done, and maybe I mentioned this before, in an alley of the building I live in Manhattan. And so the alley is a whole block long, and I have 25, 30 feet by 25 feet that is under a ramp that I can use. And the people are very liberal in the building, so they let me bring it in, and then I leaned it down in our basement, and then when it melted, I left it there for a few more days till it melted away. And I'm sure I mentioned this before, so I don't know how you're going to edit, you hear this stuff again.
It'll be new for the...
For this. Oh, there you go. Hello. New for you. Because there, what was surprising here is that silver, anybody who has silver has to polish it all the time. And because light, air, and humidity affect it. And even if you have silver and you keep it in, those felt things, and it still tarnishes, and it's hard to keep it super bright. But these strips, which are now a good 2 years old, 2 years and since January, 2.5 years old, and they haven't darkened. Now, any piece of silver you have around the house, 2.5 years later, it's already tarnished. So this was acid snow. New York City, it's definitely got a lot of acid in it, and that kind of pollution. And so does silver polishes, I would think. So it is. I would like to talk to a chemist. Like, why? What? We should all leave our stuff out in the acid snow. You never have to polish it.
That's true, because I think what you would expect to see is actually the parts where the snow sat on the canvas and melted.
Well, it wasn't that long where it sat. So what you're seeing here, it doesn't sit here very long. No, not enough to affect. Yeah. But when it was brought inside, see, there's no marking up there. So it didn't have a time to sit and then melt. Once it was brought inside, so there's no marking there. Just some was on the ledge at the top. Yeah. And so there it is. Some of it. It's wherever there were markings that it could drip down.
Yeah, I would, because what I was going to say is that I would have almost expected where the drips are to be the darker parts of the canvas. That there'd be more oxidation.
Well, everyone I've done is different, because this has dark drips. None of the others. There's one over here doesn't have dark drips.
Yeah. Actually, there is quite a lot of
dark drip. It's meaning the chemical dripped as well. So that, and another thing that happens on some of them, and not all, is so I don't know why exactly. Yeah. But you see how there's a kind of solarization around some of the lines around here a little bit where the drip. But I have another painting over here where it's solarized all around every mark, so to speak. In other words, a border of bright silver.
And I suppose that's one of the unfortunate things about the random aspects of some processes, that you do sometimes get a fortuitous.
It's all fortuitous. You're not going to see it again.
But then you don't know how to. Get there, re-achieve that again if,
but I like the variety, and I did a show. It seems nature has so much variety, and so I did a show here in New York, and there I had work from when was it? 2016. So from about 13 to 16, 3 years, and I had bright, like you mentioned in the hall here, the vestibule. That there's another really bright one, and so I had a whole range of some that I had made years before. So people coming in could see what happened over a period of time. However, that being said, I have now, for the first time, I've decided to, maybe getting older, liking this fondness for antiquity, for patinas of age and so on. I've decided to varnish them and keep some bright.
All right.
Yeah, so to stop the action. So I'm going against all these principles that were established for some 40 years. I've been doing this, and have some that stay, because I've liked also those fresh first moments. That's part of the whole trajectory of the work. So it's one part that would be lost unless I stopped it, but something that happens.
In fact, you could sort of arrest the process at different points, really, couldn't you?
That's what I do now.
Yeah.
And I've offered to some that collectors have taken, where I had that notion of just watching it change, and people have seen that, to saying, look, I can stop it where it is. I can also restore it by just using, a silver dip. So if you use polish, it's too fragile. It'll polish off the silver leaf itself. Yeah. Although it's a good thick, German leaf, or Italian too, leaf in there, but a thick one, and that behaves differently. For the first time, I used a very expensive. Well, it's just thicker leaf, so it's more expensive than one out in the hall, for instance. Here has that thick leaf.
The interesting thing about that is that time, which has had quite an important part in the random, the toolbox of random things that you draw on, is something that you kind of, in that incident, is almost opt out of. It's like, okay, right. I'm now shutting that down.
But see, there's another thing where you take the moment, just like any artist, you stop a work. I mean, let's say you're painting with paint and you're done. You stop. You're stopping that moment of time, and so in that way, I look at it and then decide to stop at that moment. I haven't done all of them that way, just some, and only in the last less than a year.